everybody. So, I'm going to be making a lot of references to Star Wars and Jedi Knights because when you strip away all the Hollywood fluff, the whole theme of what a Jedi Knight is and the connection to the Force, it's actually very spiritual. In the spiritual world, we call it the Source, and it's basically the same thing. You see, in order to be the perfectly balanced version of ourselves, we need two things. We need to be balanced and connected, but we also need to know the knowledge. Like in Star Wars, you need to know the ways of the Jedi. And I have basically, not on purpose, but I've lived a life where I started playing cards when I was 5 years old. And unless you are comfortable with losing all the time, you have to evolve and you have to learn. So without even realizing it, I became a student of poker. And now I was already a student of philosophy. And as I'm reading my philosophy books, I keep finding more and more deeper, older, ancient ways that apply in life and in poker. And I write a lot of books about this kind of stuff. Now, I want everybody to get everything as clear as possible. I am one of you. And I truly believe that inside each one of us as poker players, there's a Jedi Knight waiting to be awakened. And I am on my leg of my journey, and each of you are on your different legs of your journeys. But the only way we really can grow is if we learn from each other. So I'm going to be sharing over these weeks what I've learned. I've watched thousands and thousands and hours of video. I mean, I grew up in an era where we watched poker on TV. I've seen every episode of WSOP Main Event, WPT Final Table, you name it. And then we have this magical world of the internet where I click a button and I can watch more footage. I've read hundreds of books. But more importantly, if you're good at chess, if you're good at golf, if you're kicking your friends' butts, you just don't go out and join the senior PGA Tour or the PGA Tour. You go out and you find a guide, you find a trainer, you find a coach. And that's what I did. When I decided 4 years ago that I was going to take my game from underground cash games to casino cash games to online to take it live, before I stepped foot in the arena, I went out and found the best coaches. We're talking names like Alex Fox and Kristen Fox and Chance Cormeth, and my really good buddy, Lucky Chewy, Andrew Lichtenberger, who happened to grow up only 10 minutes from where I raised my children. So we learn the ways of those who are ahead of us, and they lift us up. So today we're going to talk about one of the most important things in poker. Now keep in mind, we are playing a game of imperfect information. It's like life. We could only see the cards that people reveal. We could only see the tells. We have limited knowledge. So one of the most important things is to put ourselves in a position where we have the most amount of knowledge to make the best rational logic decisions based upon what we know when we know it. So I've written a few books, and one of my books is called The Dirty Day Poker Coach. And what I basically did is I took decades of knowledge and just simplified it in a way where it could remind everybody, from somebody who just started playing poker to the top pros in the world, just to repeat the things that give us positive EV experience, right? That's all it comes down to, making positive EV decisions and less negative EV decisions. In that book, day one is about position, because a position is awareness. Awareness is knowledge, and knowledge is power. So let me read a little bit here, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so it starts off like this. If I could tattoo one poker truth onto the forehead of every struggling player, it would be this: position matters more than you think. In fact, it matters so much that many of the problems players keep blaming on bad luck are really position problems in disguise. Most weaker players still fall in love with their cards before they even think about their seat. That is backwards, my friends. Yes, your cards matter, but where you are sitting often matters just as much, maybe more. Position gives you information, and information is gold in poker. The later you act, the more you get to see before you make a decision. You get to watch who checks, who bets, who hesitates, who looks comfortable, who looks a little shaky, and who seems interested in the pot, and who is just going through the motions. In early position, you're speaking first into a room where several other people get a chance to interrupt you. That means you need stronger starting hands and better discipline. In late positions, you have more flexibility. You could steal more, control more, and punish weakness more effectively because the table has already revealed something before you act. This is why hand values change depending on where you are playing. A hand that feels cute under the gun can be a headache waiting to happen, but the same hand on the button may suddenly become useful. A marginal ace, a suited connector, a king with a weak kicker. These hands are not fixed in value. Position can make them playable or make them dangerous. Now, a little background about position. There are those of us who we've gone down this rabbit hole so far that forget about modern poker theory, because that's only 100 years old or less. We've gone deeper into the strategy, and eventually we end up in ancient China, scriptures about how to win war, about how to survive. Now, we've all heard of the book, The Art of War. What many people don't realize is that 90% of the content that we see about strategy and hear about strategy actually is borrowed from books like The Art of War. Now, I'll give you an example. You hear it all the time. People say, you must act strong when you're weak, and you must act weak when you're strong. That's a quote directly out of The Art of War. It's a poker book. There's a lot of ancient poker books because poker is life, poker is war, poker is everything. So, I don't advise you going out and buying The Art of War because this thing is thick. But I do say you should get the Cliff Notes version. I have a cool little copy that I carry around with me. Ask AI to give you the synopsis, and you're going to find out a lot of what you're missing because it's all in there. And in The Art of War, they speak about position, about being last to act, about how every defense is stronger than an offense. So if you're going to go out in the offense, you have to bring more ammunition, stronger hands. So let's talk poker specifically. Let's say you're looking at ace, jack, offsuit, and you're on the button. Now that's what I consider a sexy poker hand. And trust me, I know a thing or two about sexy poker hands because I wrote a book, The Nit's Guide to Sexy Poker Hands, and ace, jack, offsuit is in the book. Now, if everybody folds around to you and you're on the button with that hand, that's a powerful hand against the blinds, isn't it? Right? We could come out firing with that hand. But you take that same hand and you put it under the gun. Under the gun. See, this is where poker players sometimes miss the obvious. Why is the seat called under the gun? And I'll tell you why. Because you need to act like you have a gun to your head. And any hand you play out of that seat, you got to look at it and you got to say, am I willing to bet my tournament life on this hand? So when you look down at a hand like H-Jack offsuit, do you really want to take that hand into battle? Or would you rather wait for pocket queens or something? You get that? Under the gun. It's the same hand, different position, less information. These are the concepts that a lot of people just take for granted. We hear them all the time. But the truth is, Um, if you pay attention if you pay attention to your position, after the flop, the edge gets even clearer. Acting last means you can decide whether to bet, to check back, to bluff, or take a free card after seeing what your opponent does first. Acting first means you're often forced to define your hand before you really know what kind of resistance is coming. And that is a hard way to earn a living. A lot of costly poker doesn't come from terrible hands. It comes from decent hands played from bad seats by players who want to get involved. You know, that urge to see if we can make something happen. Listen, that's the biggest, quietest bankroll killer in the game. So if you want a practical improvement, start immediately asking yourself not only what cards do I have, but start asking yourselves, where am I? You'll find that you'll start folding more junk from bad spots. You'll steal more pots from good ones, and you'll save yourself from getting into too many of those murky post-flop situations where you're guessing while somebody else is driving. Anyway, what I like to do